so we can get out of here on time because we have an evening event. My name is Jeff Williams. I've had a machine for almost a year now. You're going to see my presentation's a little different. Jerry sent me an email and said, would you do this? And I was thinking visual and everything. And so we didn't really compare notes on how we put presentations together. He asked me to do a presentation. He titled it Time Out, talking about how do you get your busiest days, how do you get product through your machine. So that's what I want to talk about briefly. I couldn't decide if that was a timeout or a technical foul, but that's what I used for the opening slide. Essentially, we're talking about keeping the theme of game or timeout. You know, what's my game plan? How do I get through these busy days? Joe's been talking in terms of turns, throughput. Getting the piece from the start to the finish is essentially the same thing as turns. So we're going to look at quickly how do we maximize the throughput of the laser system.
Jeff,
Yes.
could you stand a little bit closer to the table?
Okay.
That's perfect.
Well, now can everybody see? All right? Okay. Okay. First, we need to look at what our team is. Most of our stores, 99% of the stores, are going to have one laser. You're going to have one operator working to satisfy every customer that comes in the store who wants their product now. That's the biggest thing that you have to overcome on your busy days. Is everybody thinks theirs is the most important. So you have to figure out how to deal with that. How do I get my team ready? And this is the process I went through. I'm not saying this is the only process, but this is kind of how I looked at it. First thing I have to know is which days do I need to prepare for. I was speaking with somebody earlier that said that Saturday was their slowest day of the week. You know, that would have never hit me. So what I went back to do, and I went back and I looked at my sales, and I just wonder, how many of you in here look at your sales on a yearly basis? Okay. How many look at it on a monthly basis? Pretty good. How many look at it on a weekly basis? How about on a daily basis? Great. If you're not looking at it that way, there's no way you're going to identify the days that you need to be ready for. You really have to analyze your sales and know what to prepare for. By looking back at my 2009 sales, I look at it by month, by week, and by day. I can identify my general biggest days for 2010. Friday and Saturday before Valentine, Friday and Saturday before Easter. Now I'm talking in terms of laser sales, not overall sales, but laser sales that have to go through the product, through the machine. Friday and Saturday before Mother's Day, before graduation, before Father's Day, before Christmas. Anybody see a pattern there in my store? Friday and Saturday is the pattern. I want to throw Murphy's Law in here. If anything can go wrong, it will, and it will happen at the worst possible time. So when's the worst possible time for something to go wrong with your laser machine? Friday or Saturday. Your busiest days, Friday and Saturday, associated with those holidays. Why are these days so important? Again, I'm a numbers person. I look at everything by numbers. Overall, Friday and Saturday account for 42% of my sales. These 6 holidays, the months that they fall in account for 51% of my sales. 51% of the sales in 5 months. The 2 days, Friday and Saturday, associated with these 6 holidays accounts for 9% of my sales. Why is that important? How many in here made better than 10% profit last year? Net. Profit. Net profit. I lost money last year. Okay. That's why it's important. 9% of my sales were generated on 12 days. Think about that. 9% of my sales were generated on 12 days. You have to focus your efforts on those important days. You have to really be ready for them. So, what do we do to get our team ready for those critical days? By the way, there is a handout. I forgot to hand this out. If anybody's interested, I came with a 13-page handout, and Joe told me, no, I want 1 page. So we narrowed it down to 1 page. This is the first and most important thing that all of us have to do. How many in here are not retail storefront retailers? Is there anybody in here that's not a storefront retailer? 1, okay. So this applies to all of us that are in the business of running a laser
Should
machine.
it be one per store, because it's not that many.
Yeah, we can print some more if we need them. First thing, you have to think differently about your laser system. You have to realize that laser is different than regular retail. We're not just selling a product. We're not selling a willow tree love or whatever the willow tree is that we take it off the shelf and we hand it to the customer. Well, actually, the piece that we're selling is only part of the transaction. You have to consider the amount of time that you have on the laser itself. A lot of what I'm saying you've already heard from other people today, so it'll just be a repeat of it. So you have to develop what your game plan is. Again, this is mine. It may be differently in your store because your store runs a little differently than mine does. Again, maximizing the throughput of your laser system to focus. And I came out of a manufacturing background. I worked in heavy equipment manufacturing for 9 years. Throughput is a manufacturing term. It talks about how long it takes to get something in a manufacturing facility from the back door that comes in as raw product out the front door as a finished product. In our stores, it's the time it takes to get from the piece that we get from Dunn into our customers' hands finished and paid for. Same concept, just a little bit different. Throughput is most important in service organizations, and when you really think about it, those of us that operate laser centers, we're providing a service. We couldn't provide it without the product, but the product without the service in a lot of ways is nothing that we'd be interested in. So everything's about how to get the maximum through your machine. I've identified 3 areas that you can have problems in getting product through your machine. You have operator problems, you can have equipment problems. The biggest area is you can have customer problems. I use the word problems, maybe we need to change that to opportunities, but I want to look at those quickly. The operator problems, first thing you have to do is make sure your operators are trained. If you haven't gone through the training here at Dunn, you need to do it. Anybody that's initially getting a machine, I would strongly recommend that you come up here for the 2 days. To be very honest, I got my 2 days a year ago at this convention. Didn't get my machine for a little over 3 months, so about 98% of what I learned here I had forgotten by the time I got the machine. So you really need to get the training as part of your startup plan. And the other thing you need to do, and some of what we've seen today are going to make this a lot easier to accomplish, is you have to have multiple people trained that can operate the machine, and you have to give them time to play with the system. When I say play with the system, they need to understand all of the functions that Joe has talked about and all the ones that apply to what you're doing. Just standing in front of the machine pushing buttons will not get you what you want the outcome to be. The next thing is on these critical days, and in my instance I'm referring to the 12 Friday and Saturday periods of time, you want to put your first string operator on the machine. Having somebody that's not as familiar or not as proficient is going to greatly slow you down. Again, referring to what Peter was talking about earlier, I'm the technical guy in my store. I'm the entrepreneurial type also, but in a crunch situation, I'm on the machine because I can run it faster than anybody else in my store. So, same thing, in your stores, you need to identify, every store is going to have somebody that stands out that really thinks computer or thinks design or thinks numbers. You need to identify that person, make sure that you have them scheduled on your critical days. And then I broke that down into 3 things. Make certain your operator focuses on running the laser. Make certain you have other sales staff available to help customers so your operator focuses on running the laser. And make certain nothing interferes with your operator's focus on running the laser. Again, I think everybody gets the emphasis. If that operator has 15 other responsibilities on these critical days, your machine's not going to be running at full capacity. And the more you can run it, the more dollars you can generate, and you feel so much better at the end of the day. Another thing that I've done, and again, my approach may be a little different than some of you, I've come up with custom jigs or custom holders to help push product through the machine. Anybody have any idea what that is? I don't know, in the back it's kind of hard to see. The little